So for this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to mix the watercolour paints. We're going to start off by mixing our 3 primary colours that we talked about earlier. And I'm going to show you, first of all, how to paint a colour wheel. So it's really important that you understand how to mix colours in watercolour. And this is one of the first things that we need to learn. So I've got a template that I've devised. It's a colour wheel with 12 segments. So I've taped it onto my watercolour paper. I'm using a propelling pencil to draw around all the segments so that I can then start getting ready to paint them. Okay, so once that's been done, I can remove the masking tape and I can take off the template. And underneath, I've got the segments. If you haven't got this template, you can just create a circle and divide it into 12, and that's absolutely fine too. So to start off with, I'm going to number the wheel first. I just find it a little bit easier. So starting from number 1, working in a clockwise way, I'm just going to number them so that I can make sure that I paint in the correct segments. So 10, 11 and 12. So we're going to start off by mixing our colours first. So this is what we're going to be producing here with the 3 primaries. So you can choose your colours. And before we start, I need to just make sure that I squeeze a little bit of paint in each well. So there goes the yellow. Here's a phthalo blue. Notice that I'm only using a tiny amount. These are professional watercolours. And I find that I only need a tiny little bit, and this is a quinacridone rose going in there too. So to start off with, I'm going to take my flat brush, and I like to use a flat one to mix with because I don't want to ruin my best brushes. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take a little bit of clean water. So everything when you do a colour wheel needs to be really clean. So adding some water into the palette, I'm going to mix. Just first of all, make sure the brush is actually clean. Okay, so I just take a tissue and check it on there, and then I pick up a little bit of the lemon and I start off by mixing it, and then I go into the first segment and I'm ready to paint that. So what I've also got is a big jug of water, which you can't see, but that's on the side, so I can rinse out my brush and make sure that everything's clean. So I'm going to take my number 4 brush and I'm going to start off by painting number 1 on the segment. So you need to make sure that you load the brush up with the lemon, and starting off from the top, I've started to just paint the segment. So just take your time, make sure that you go from edge to edge, and you can also see what the colour looks like. So I've made sure that this is quite vibrant and bright, so I've added quite a little bit of watercolour to it, actual pigment, and then just starting off by painting the first segment. Okay, if I've got any excess paint here, I just need to mop it up. That's absolutely fine. And then using my large jar, I'm rinsing the brush out. So I then move on to the next colour, which is the orange. I beg your pardon. So I'm now moving on to the next colour, which is the quinacridone rose. So I take a little bit of that and I put it onto the palette. I add some water to it, only a little bit, from my clean pipette. A couple of drops there. Make sure that the round brush is nice and clean. And then I paint number 5 with the pink. Okay, so here we go. The same thing again, just starting off, make sure that it's nice and vibrant. So I'm just adding a little bit more paint to that. Just make sure you get it all around the edges. You can take your time. So you need to make sure that you've got enough water in your mixture as well, and also enough watercolour paint, and then you'll get a nice bright colour. Just very carefully trying to keep in the lines. This is a lovely warm-up exercise, and it's something that everybody needs to do before you start your watercolour. It just gives you an idea of how everything's going to mix as well. Okay, so there's the pink done. So rinsing the brush out again, just checking it on my tissue, making sure that I've cleaned it out thoroughly. And then I take the next colour, which is the blue. So again, rinsing the brush out, make sure that you pick up a tiny little amount, mix it in there, adding a little bit of water. If you don't have this pipette, what you need to do is dunk your brush into the water and put some in. So notice that my clean water is always clean, and I'm not using the dirty water that I'm rinsing the brush out with to paint with. Okay, so now I'm going to number 9, and I'm going to paint number 9 with my blue. So it doesn't matter which primary colours you use, to be honest with you. Use what you've got, and then you'll start to understand how the colours mix. So this is our little recipe for watercolour wheel. So making sure that I paint it nice and evenly. Okay, so that's our number 9 painted with the blue, rinsing the brush out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the primary colours, and we're going to make secondary colours. So we've got yellow, we've got the pink, and we've got the blue. So in number 3, we're going to mix yellow and the pink, and we're going to get an orange. So what I can do is I can use the yellow I already have, and I can add a quantity, a little bit of pink to it, okay, to make an orange. And just make sure that you've got a nice true orange, and you go into number 3 and you paint number 3 with the orange that you've just mixed. So this method is such an easy way to follow. Try and number your segments. I find it a lot easier when you number them, because it's so easy to go into the wrong segment and paint it. So try not to touch any of the other segments as you're painting, because they're still a little bit wet. Okay, so that's the orange gone in. So in the number 2, I'm going to have the same orange, but this time I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to that box. So it's going to be more of a yellow orange. So I'm just going to take it to one side, mix more yellow in, and go in to number 2 and paint that box there, little segment there. Okay, so you can see whatever colour it's next to, you add more of that colour. So just making sure that I go right up to the edge with it. Okay, just pulling the paint down and making sure that I go right up to the edge. So the number 4 one is going to be the orange, but a little bit more red to it. So what I can do is I can take the red, add it to the orange, and I'm going to add a little bit more, so I've got more of a red orange. Okay, so when you look at it in the palette, you can't really see the colour difference, but as soon as I paint it onto the paper, you can see the difference straight away. So by adding a little bit more of the red, or pink in our case, to the orange mixture, it's now become a red orange. So just making sure that, try not to touch this primary colour here that I've painted. So just take your time when you paint it, make sure you try and keep within the edge. It's a nice warm-up exercise. And then rinse it out. And then we move on to the next secondary colour. So this time we're going to mix the red with the blue. Okay, so what we do is we've got to make sure that it's a true red, so you can't use the orange now. So what you can do is just take a tissue and you can clean it up. So make sure that it's all nice and clean, ready for the colour. So you do need a roll of kitchen paper next to you. And then we go again. So you take the red, okay, and to that you can add a little bit of the blue. So this will then create a lovely purple, as you can see there. So I'm going to use this lovely mixture, and I'm just going to make it a little bit stronger. I'm going to use this mixture in number 7 to create our what we call violet colour. So you can see it's created a beautiful purple that's now ready to be painted in that segment. So the paper at the moment is dry. You can see the surface is dry. So we call this wet on dry. And this is also known as a flat wash. Okay, so it's just a wash that's all even all the way down the segment. Okay, and this paper is really lovely to work on. So I get a lovely nice even spread of paint on there. And the number 6 is going to be this violet, but with a little bit extra red. Okay, so I can use that violet, go into the red and add a little bit more red to it. So I've got more of a pinky colour. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more blue to it, then a bit more red. Okay, so here we go. So this time it's going to be a little bit more pinky, so that's number 6 going in there. So again, just paint that segment as neat as you can. Okay, lovely. So rinse the brush out again. This time it's going to be the violet with a little bit more blue added to it, so I can use the same mixture there. There's definitely more blue there. Going into that pink again and mix that up, so I've got more of a blue violet. Okay, so as soon as I put it on, you can see the difference. Wow, look at that. Beautiful colours. So I use these colours especially to paint florals with. I just think they're so vibrant and they make beautiful bright colours. Okay, so just painting that there. So try and keep your brush clean every time you rinse the paint off it. Just check it on the tissue to make sure it's nice and clean. And this is a really good way of teaching you how to keep everything fresh everything clean, and you can see how easily I'm doing it here. So the next secondary colour is going to be blue and yellow, and it's going to be in the number 11, and that's going to make a lovely green. So I'll take a little bit of the yellow into a separate palette, rinse the brush out, pick up a tiny bit of the blue and create a lovely vibrant green. Okay, I'm just going to put a little bit more yellow in there. There we go. So number 11 is going to be this lovely bright green. Make sure again that you don't touch any of the other segments. What you can do is, if you want to, you could use a hairdryer and dry the colours off in between. So that you don't put your hand on them. Okay, so that's the first colour mixed. Number 10 is going to be this green with more blue in. So I've already got here. Take the blue and add a little bit more blue to it, so it's more of a blue green. And just a little bit more yellow to it. If you think it's gone too blue, then just put a little bit more of the other colour in. And look at this beautiful turquoisey blue it creates. Same thing again, just loading the brush up. Make sure that you've got a good load, and then just painting that segment with this beautiful turquoisey blue colour. Okay, so that's that turquoise blue gone on. And then the final one, number 12, is the green with a little bit more yellow to it. So what I'm going to do is mix the green again here, just to make sure that I don't get too much of a blue colour. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of, tiny bit of blue to it, so it's more of a yellow green. Okay, so make it quite vibrant. So in the mixture, add more yellow to your blue and you get lovely spring green. Okay, so already you can see how I've mixed these lovely secondary and tertiary colours with 3 primaries, and it saves you a lot of money buying every colour under the sun, and it teaches you how to colour mix. And this skill is essential in watercolour, and you need to have some knowledge of how to mix it, and hopefully this will be our reference for the rest of the tutorials. Okay, so I'll be referencing this colour wheel, so you will need it next to you, and you have to really go through the process of painting it to understand it. Then you know how much water is needed, how much paint is needed. And that's our final segment in our colour wheel. So how beautiful is that? So let's just quickly go through the colours again. You've got yellow, you've got red, orange, you've got orange. Sorry, you've got yellow, orange, red, orange. Orange there. You've got the red, then you've got the purple, then you've got the violet that we mixed. You've got a blue purple here. You've got the blue, then you've added more blue to it to make a turquoise, then you've got the regular green, and you've got a green here with more yellow in, and that's a spring green. So that's our watercolour watercolour wheel.